This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, everyone. This is Julie Noble, and I am the chair of the Conservation Advisory Council. This is the November 10th meeting of the Kingston Conservation Advisory Council. And on our call today, we have the following council members: Betta Broad, Lorraine Farina, Emily Hauser, Kevin McAvoy, myself as the chair, Sebastian Pilateri, and our common council liaison, Michelle Hirsch. We also have a guest, Lindsay Drew. Would you like to make any public comment for the record?
Not at this time.
All right, well, thanks for being here. We are going to proceed with the meeting, calling to order at 6:04. I suppose I should have asked for public comment after 6:04. I can assume that there is no public comment still from Lindsay. So are there any modifications to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to.
Oh, wait, sorry, I thought I had to unmute. Do we have a follow-up on the letter to the stream protection? Did it go out? And is that old business?
I can talk about that under communications.
Okay.
Any other changes? Okay. Review and approval of the October minutes. I saw the notes come in from Emily. Thanks for putting that together. Are there any other changes or any concerns or anything else about Emily's notes? Emily, did you want to speak to any of those?
No.
I just, one very brief, this is Lorraine, one very brief thing, which had to do with the change that Emily made on the part about the hockey group, I hate that acronym, but KAQI, that data have been collected rather than has been collected, but that was the only thing.
I had a typo on there somewhere. If you look under the meeting minutes, it says approval to September, and the text says August. So I'm going to change that.
Oh, good point.
Huh.
Okay. And Lorraine, where was your change?
The end of Emily, it was on Emily, excuse me, Emily's comment edits. The first edit that she made
okay.
about the meeting with Kaki being scheduled in order to discuss data that have been collected.
Okay. That had been collected. You wanted to read had been?
Have, H-A-V-E.
Have been collected. Got it. Okay, done.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments, changes, concerns, questions? Okay, if not, I need a motion to accept the October 13th, 2020 minutes as amended. Emily, can I have a second?
Yes, sir.
Sebastian, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? All right, unanimous, thank you. And thank you, Kevin, for putting those together. All right, on to Lorraine for Air Quality Subcommittee.
Okay. Let's see, I wanted to ask whether the air quality mission statement had been added to the website. That was something that first I wanted to thank Julie for reading my report last month. And I don't know whether that, I looked, I don't think I saw it, but is that something that was agreeable to people to add that there to the air quality website?
It's done.
Yeah, fine.
So the mission statement, the goals, and all your links, and the WAMC have been added to the website.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Julie.
The mission statement, the goals, the links to the studies, and the WAMC interview are all on the website.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Okay, next item, I just wanted to mention that I attended a webinar through UC Davis the end of October. It was entitled Policy and Air Quality Management Performance Targets, Communication and Interpretation of Air Quality Data. So I believe for our work here, the relevant points were that 45% of the public felt they knew nothing about air quality in their own neighborhoods. These were studies that were done. The most sought out source for air quality information was not public education events, it was governmental websites. And that there were two ways that the public perceived risk as far as air quality goes: visible smoke and news reports. And the presenter used the phrase "out of sight, out of mind." So those are, I think, informative for us. And the last item I have tonight is that CACI, the Kingston Air Quality Initiative, will be meeting soon. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I wanted to note something interesting that happened in my neighborhood just a few days ago, actually yesterday. We have a number of people in my neighborhood that burn in their wood fireplaces. But yesterday I walked outside at 4:30 and my entire street was filled with smoke. And I could smell from my kitchen, but I went outside and it smelled like steak. It was like the most dead-on steak smell I've ever smelled. But the whole entire street, across the street to my side, and as far as I could see either way, was filled with smoke. But it didn't smell like burnt steak. Wow. It smelled like perfectly cooked steak, but the whole neighborhood was filled with smoke. So it was, I don't know who was cooking steak last night. I don't know how it turned out, but I do know that it had a huge impact on my air quality in my neighborhood. So I'll be interested to look at my air quality monitor to see. And I made a note in our Google Doc that
good.
There was some steak cooking.
Yeah.
Or something.
I'm glad to hear you you mention that, because anecdotally things are certainly worse here. Lots and lots of fire pits, people burning scrap wood and tree limbs, and I know there's no enforcement happening, so I haven't called the fire department, but it's certainly I do make a note in the Google Doc, and the smokiness can be really affecting a lot of the time now. So yeah, I'm kind of not surprised. Maybe, do you think that was an indoor event that you were smelling, or you think that they have something in the yard, Julie?
I don't know. The whole thing was very strange, because it's not uncommon for me to be able to smell whenever other people are cooking in my neighborhood, which is very interesting also, because I feel like that's such an inside thing, but I could just smell it very clearly. I have a very sensitive nose, and I can really identify like exactly what people are having for their meal, which is very strange. But the fact that it was I'd have to look. I'd be interested in looking at what the weather pattern was last night, and there must have been some sort of inversion happening where it was this low-level smoke, and it was not concentrated. It was everywhere. I don't know.
Well, I'm not sure if you saw that I sent something to all of. Oh no, I sent something to the BARD team. I didn't include you because I thought this had more to do with the data collection, but at this point, but the DEC had posted a particulate matter warning for an alert for particularly New York City metro area, but the numbers were very high in this area as well on their site. And I was wondering why. First of all, the DEC doesn't issue those much at all, mostly ozone. So I know that maybe Lindsay is aware of that. They're looking into that, why that was, because apparently it was the entire, up the East Coast to Maine, Pennsylvania. I don't really know what caused that inverse.
That was yesterday?
I'm sorry?
It was yesterday?
Yes, it was yesterday. Yep. Yeah.
I definitely experienced it on a really local level.
I should here.
Marco, you're just bombing our meeting? You can just come in and go to the place?
Backgrounds. I went up to the profiler today to retrieve basically the last month or so's worth of data. So I will be visualizing that and then sending that out to the khaki folks. And I will try to make a pointed visualization for yesterday just to see if we picked up on any of that, which I would assume we did if it was bad enough that DEC sent something out.
Wow.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
And it'll be interesting to see both on a city level, but also on a, like in my neighborhood, to look at my air quality monitors to see if there was a difference.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
Thank
Anything, Lindsay, you wanted to add in?
No.
All right. Excellent.
Oh, one
Lorraine,
last thing. I have in my hand here a COVID mask, and I don't know if you can see right there. It comes with a PM 2.5 filter that you can insert in it.
Nice.
Might be a thought, Lorraine. Don't know.
You mean an overlay kind of thing? Because I can't see it, but you mean, is that what you mean?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's an insert actually.
Okay.
When you open it up, it has a little pouch thing on the inside, and you kind of put it in there.
Oh, so it's a physical map. It's not like a digital. It's
Yeah,
not
it's like a regular COVID mask, but it has
I thought you said map.
Yeah, it has a place for a PM 2.5 filter to insert into it.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have one of those myself. Yes.
Oh, okay. So I'm just okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
So Lorraine, if you want to just take a look at the website and see if you see anything else that you want me to add or changes you want me to make, let me know.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, moving on to Nri and Open Space. Maybe Michelle, do you have any update on the open space plan? Or what? Do you know what the deal is?
Just that it's going to be voted on tonight by the council. So
Was it?
I expect it to be approved unanimously. I don't see any problems.
Okay. What ended up happening with the public hearing part of it?
I don't believe anyone, so only one person had signed up and they didn't attend. So,
Okay.
but they sent in their public comment the next day, so.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
All right.
I forgot to attend, but I did send my comment in.
Okay.
I was the person that signed up,
Okay.
unless there's someone else.
It was you.
Yeah. So apparently, I mean, do you feel like it's going to pass?
Yeah, I don't think there's any problem. I just, I knew you had signed up and wanted to reach out to make sure, you were able to get in and that there weren't any technical difficulties, so.
Yeah, no, it's just weird to even try to think about evening meetings these days. So, because they're not in person, so you're not thinking, oh yeah, I'm gonna go over there.
All right, well, we'll look to see how that goes. I do know that the Land Trust is planning on putting out some press about some of their land acquisitions, and they're mentioning the open space plan in it. So definitely beginning to really track progress, which is great. And so that will, once this is approved, that will really conclude that part of the process, which I'm excited to see happen. And even without currently actively working on tracking and implementing the open space plan moving forward, actively. It's happening. It is on my radar to continue to convene people to actually work on implementation, but people are working on implementation without convening. So I'm grateful to the Land Trust for all that work that they've done in moving things forward. So speaking of that, also, anything on the Esopus Creek? I don't know if anyone, Sebastian, Kevin, Emily, are you aware of anything? Any action?
No, I haven't spoken to Mary.
No, we haven't heard anything. We had there was a meeting. I think the only thing that we're looking for is the environmental impact statement or whatever for the releases for the show, or for the, not the releases, but for the management plan for the Esopus, and I don't think anything has come of that either.
Okay. So no action. I mean, is there like an ongoing plan for wood removal? Like post-storm?
Not that I know of.
Sebastian, do you know if there was any kind of plan moving forward? Like regular
No.
checking?
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I know the Land Trust is watching it, but Greg Shaheen is, I spoke to him last night, and I wanted to make sure that the Land Trust acquisition criteria, had strong language concerning repairing buffers, particularly with and floodplains, particularly with respect to the Esopus Creek.
Okay. All right. Any discussion on the Pedestrian Street initiative?
Also no.
Yeah, what's been going on with the general like sidewalk cafes, i.e. people eating outside, it's still expanded, it's still happening, but the city is making a decision on a week by week basis. So they're basically granting the permit for 7 days. And in doing so, basically every 7 days reevaluating, i.e. looking forward 7 days if there's going to be snow in order to get barricades out of the road. So far, with days like today, people are still eating outside. So I think that most restaurants are milking that as long as possible, as they should. And so you'll see that once snow is on the radar, then those parking spots will be cleared out. But they are still being permitted on the 7 day basis. All right. So I don't have any new business. And for communications, I will say that the stream communication did go out to the governor and was CC'd to Cahill, Amador, and Zagos. So that was sent. Thank you, Emily, for pulling all that together. I didn't hear any comments from anyone else, so I pulled that together and got that going out the door. Do we know what the timeline is for any kind of response or action on that, Emily?
I haven't been following it. Just I think that there was a time period, and I don't know why I was thinking of January 1st, but there was a time period that if he doesn't take action, that it is a veto. Sebastian, do you know the time frame on that? So.
No, I don't, but I know that was the fear I think that a lot of people had, was that he wasn't going to act and it would just be a veto.
Mm-hmm.
If he didn't act, it would be a veto?
He doesn't
Yes.
sign it, I guess, by a certain date, it just becomes a veto.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Why would he not sign it? Is that a very loaded question?
Well, obviously there's concerns because otherwise he would have signed it and there wouldn't be this grassroots. And I'm assuming that it has to do with people that are concerned that, I don't know if that they won't be able to do what they want to do on those streams, like, I don't know, marinas, I don't really know.
Yeah, I think there was a concern brought up too, and I don't know how valid it is, just that if you're going to be dramatically increasing the number of streams that would be covered by this permit and by the DEC, that you might require additional staffing and funding at DEC.
Yep.
I know that there is a comment about the permit structure though, and that you can structure it in a way so that the permits can make up the difference in terms of cost, like there can be a fee associated with them, but I heard of that being about that being a concern as well.
Okay. All right, well, I guess we will keep our eyes out. We did our part, so good work, team. I didn't have any other communications. I don't know if anyone else did. Or announcements or events.
I think I sent this to you, but I'm hosting, as you know, there was a CAD project that happened in Kingston. That was a 30% design, taking a CAD design and having an engineer actually come up with a design for Kingston Point Beach. And as part of the Hudson River Sustainable Shorelines project that I work on, I'm having the presenters, including Julie, give a talk on that on Friday the 20th at 2 o'clock. And you can register. I put the link up here. And so there's half of the time will be on Kingston and the other half will be on the shoreline stabilization that is 30% designed for Piermont.
Yes, thank you for giving us an opportunity to do that, Emily.
You're welcome.
Any other announcements or events? Okay. Any update or report from Complete Streets? Rain?
Yeah, I didn't attend last month, but I spoke to Greg Krupp, and the sidewalk phase 2 sidewalk proposal has been put on hold indefinitely right now. So that was my main charge in going to those meetings. I remember, but I will go to the next one. It hasn't been decided yet, but in the meantime, there will be another meeting regarding Flatbush Avenue and Foxhole Avenue that I'll be attending at the end of November, and that's it.
Okay, great. Planning board, any updates from the planning board, Kevin?
Yeah, the November agenda just came out this afternoon. I haven't gone through the whole thing, but let me pull a couple of things out really fast that stick out. See here, I don't think we discussed this last meeting. Was the Wirt Street, the Mike Piazza proposal to subdivide the old Cornell property next to Cornell Park?
No.
Yeah, yeah, that's back on the agenda. There's also 21 O'Neill Street to establish a drinking establishment in an existing building, and that has a parking issue, and it adjoins the Midtown Linear Park, which is what sort of drew me to it. I think Julia Farr had contacted me and asked me to review it, but it was a bit complicated with parking, which is probably a little bit out of our scope. Basically what he wants to do is have a beer garden type thing and a microbrewery, but he lacks parking. So I'm not sure where that's going to go. I know where it's going to go. It's going to the ZBA. That's where it's going. And then he'll be back at the planning board for a special permit. So they have that on the agenda. Mont Repose is still on the agenda on old business. I looked at the documents last time from Andrew Wright. It was about drainage, but I don't see an update, and they don't have any of the new documents uploaded yet. So going through this, let's see, are they making any recommendations? Yeah, recommendation to Common Council on rezoning multiple parcels in the areas referred to as Golden Hill and Lawton Park. And I think we have discussed that in the past. And I guess, as most people know, there was an announcement on Golden Hill that I think it was Penrose is going to be the contractor on that, the developer rather. Oh yes, the recommendation to the Common Council to remove any and all current regulations of livestock and poultry from the zoning to Chapter 151 on animals. That also came to the Landmarks Commission. Not that we have anything to do with that, but they just send us everything that has anything to do with zoning. And I don't know, Michelle, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I just thought the building and zoning department was getting a lot of complaints. There were a lot of people that got chicks and chickens during COVID for food security. There's a lack of eggs in the supermarkets, and so people have, there are some people that aren't properly housing their chickens, or they're getting loose and in the streets, and there's complaints about roosters. So the zoning and buildings inspection person was going out on a lot of calls. So basically it's just to move it out of the agricultural code and just create some common sense rules, and like not to have, I'm sorry, my dog, roosters and appropriate, coop design, space for them, storage of feed so as not to attract rodents, and just decide whether we're going to license or how we will enforce.
Yeah, I think Dan Gartenstein had walked the Landmarks Commission through this, but again, it's kind of, other than a zoning issue, it's kind of really far out of their purview. I brought it up yesterday to I attended the Grow Well Kingston meeting with Emily Flynn and a whole group of people, and I made them aware of it, that it was being switched out, but they're keeping the 5-acre agricultural thing in the Section 405. I think that's where Grow Well's focus is for the moment. So that's where we left that with them. And
right, this
the last
is more
thing
than just keeping them as pets versus an agricultural business.
Yeah, right.
So
Yeah,
I'm not sure what's changing. Is it just moving from one part of the code to another, which seems irrelevant to me, or is there actual code that's being changed?
What Dan, it's actual code. They're deleting it from Section 405, which is zoning, and putting it in Chapter 151, which is animals. So, well, the way Dan explained it to me was, if it stays in zoning, he was having difficulty enforcing, the complaints that were coming to Eric Kitson. So what he had recommended was that the code be switched so that it goes to 151, where there is an enforcement provision. And my question for Dan is, you're not outlawing chickens, are you? And his response was no. So that's where I left it with Dan.
But again, you're saying it's being moved. But my question is but what? Go ahead, Michelle.
Because the current zoning law requires a 200-foot setback for a chicken coop from a property line, and no one has property that large. So like that much space.
But so that's being taken out?
That's so that's the only piece that would, once it's out of the zone, that zoning, and goes into the general code for animals, like a dog, your dog house would have to be 5 feet from your neighbor's property line. your dog has to be housed appropriately, or your chickens have to be housed appropriately, the feed.
So basically, a pretty simple move is actually going to remove a lot of barriers.
I think it's great for a lot of reasons, and composting and garbage, or like feed, like food, scraps from table scraps that can be fed to, backyard chickens, and fertilizing gardens. And it's like win-win, right? Sustainability.
So should there be an effort? Well, what's the timeline? Because really, there should be an effort from Climate Smart Kingston to promote this.
Yeah, I was about to say, do we have like a place on the anywhere on like Engage Kingston's website or on the city's website with information about this? Because it does seem like, I mean, besides there being like an egg shortage, which I didn't even know about, I feel like a lot of people just like thought it would be fun to have chickens over the pandemic and got excited about the idea because they had more time and they were home, and now this whole kind of movement. So it is great that this is becoming a more officially sanctioned thing through these changes. And yeah, I just wonder, like, where is there information living about that in the city's resources?
Right, so it's still in the very early stages, because right now it's being referred to the Ulster County Planning Board, the regular planning board, and the HLIC before it gets moved out of the zoning. There's just a few steps, and then the Common Council will take action to put together, the various requirements for chicken keeping and the rules, and I just see it as a really great community education project on so many levels. And I know that the Cornell Extension has done classes on backyard chicken keeping, and maybe you can pull them in, and just a lot of education that would be really fun. I also think it'd be a really great opportunity for people to maybe put together something that I thought about, like called the Egg Collective, and donate extra eggs to the community fridges, that have been established around the city, that have been being used to help feed people with food insecurity.
It's a good idea.
I love it. What a great idea.
I'll bring this up at Climate Smart, because I think that we can utilize Climate Smart and education more to make a presence about this. So in terms of timeline, Michelle, it still has multiple steps before it's moving.
Right, so tonight it's getting voted on to just move, I'd like to move the recommendations to the various boards to get an opinion, and then I guess it will come back to laws and rules next week, actually, because we're having our council meetings a week late, so laws and rules will be on for next week.
Right. Great. As a committee, as a council that has worked on chicken for a long time in the past, it's great to see that it is moving forward. Awesome. Thanks for the update. Anything else, Kevin, on planning board?
Yeah, one last thing was, there's also a recommendation with regard to the issuance of a temporary use variance during the current emergency. And that would allow residential use in commercial spaces that cannot be rented during COVID. Let's say you had a restaurant space, they could get a building permit, reconfigure it as an office or an apartment or something, and try to do something else with it. And that would only be as a temporary use variance, for this duration of the emergency. And Dan worded that in such a way so that it wasn't tied to any executive order. I think he had the term emergency sort of vaguely worded, just so that it could be any emergency, not a specific emergency.
Yeah, I have it open. It says temporary use variance during federal, state, or local state of emergencies.
But how temporary would this be? Would it just be meaning that if you couldn't have an office space, you could, put some beds in there and I mean, I don't understand how expensive it would be for the landlord or the owner rather, to convert it temporarily. So what are they
Yeah, no, I agree
thinking?
with that. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if they
I don't
were
know how,
going,
yeah,
That
I
also
don't
will
know
go
how
back
that's
to
gonna
laws
play
and
out.
rules. So that will probably be back on the agenda next week as well.
Yeah, it sounds more
It-
complicated
I-
than it seems at first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I mean,
I don't think we
there's
commented
plenty
on
of,
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, where would,
I
where
know,
would
what?
where would people cook? I mean, yeah, these places
Well,
aren't gonna,
lots of offices have kitchens. Some offices do have kitchens. So, I mean, there's lots of examples of corner stores that are no longer corner stores and they are now living rooms.
Mhm.
But that's a permanent change, not a temporary change. Well, it would be interesting. I wanted to go back to not the specific beer garden, but the idea of parking. And that is, I thought that, that I just recall somewhere where we've addressed that parking issue and whether or not people can have shared parking or something else, and that, businesses shouldn't necessarily be, we're trying to get away from automobiles, and so why is parking such a big deal and that kind of thing. And we've talked about it before, I think, like, sharing parking and so on. So I'm not talking about in this particular case, but I'm just wondering if we have, if you could remind me if we've ever dealt with that. Maybe it wasn't, anyway.
we've talked about it. I don't know what action we've taken. I know maybe we made recommendations for the ICC.
Right. Yeah,
Mm,
that may be.
That's familiar.
Or is there anything in the comp plan about it?
I don't know.
And
I'd have to
anyway, I
look
mean,
that
I
up.
think we need to watch that because, a beer garden could share a space with, I don't know, the post office parking or something like that, or they could, if it's just on O'Neill, they could go over to park at Cornell Street, which is a
that
public
came
parking
up.
lot. So
That
yeah,
I
so
understand was
and
discussed.
yeah,
Is it
but
a
that,
cost
and
of
I'm
fuel?
just saying that. Pardon?
Go ahead.
It's just an example. I mean, there's other examples potentially that, we're not a suburban area, so we're not, do we need that many parking spaces for, I mean, that shouldn't be the limiting factor.
Well, I think you're speaking particular to locations that are infill development, that are like within the city,
Yes.
that are not
Right.
new development in a sprawl area, that
Right.
there should be a waiver for the parking policy because they could co-park somewhere else.
Right.
I
Actually,
think he
a
was too many
restaurant.
feet away. I think there's a footage requirement on that, a linear footage requirement to the nearest public parking. And I think where he was left was trying to work something out with the now or former Spada building across the street from him.
Michelle, were you
By
gonna
the
say
way, yeah. By the way, are they
It's gonna be
taking the
continued
rails
at the
out or
ZBA.
something?
Hold on. Michelle, go ahead.
Are they
And then
In
taking the-
line with that, last month, the planning
Oh.
board did approve a little new restaurant, a vegan restaurant in Ward 9 on McEntee Street, which doesn't, there's no parking on that street. And
Right.
they did allow the restaurant to utilize church parking, like the church promised the Lutheran church to let them use the space except for Sunday mornings.
Okay.
Great.
There's precedence.
And do you know more about the Cornell Street subdivision, whatever you're talking about, on Wirtz, not the Cornell Street, the Cornell Park?
Oh, yeah.
The parcel
Well, I know
near
they
the,
were looking to just subdivide it into, it was stated that it was to be subdivided into 3 separate building lots for 1 family house. So let's see.
That requires landmarks approval and a coastal consistency from the Heritage Area Commission, as well as planning board approval.
in a situation like that where maybe, is there any thing in the zoning or in the comp plan that allows like community, where you cluster development on a parcel like that, where you put the houses closer and then you have open space?
Yeah.
That might be mentioned in the open space plan. I don't know. I don't think it's in the.
It might be in the comp plan too. That could be a comment on that site.
Yeah.
Also, the Common Council is also about to embark back on the form-based code proposal and amending the code in the city. So I know a communication for that went in as well to come up at Laws and Rules next week.
Okay. And so
I'll look for that. I haven't seen that yet, the recommendation.
So is the plan to just now piecemeal code instead of a?
That's what we're trying. We want to get the form-based code back on the agenda. It had gotten sent, it was sent back to committee just because of the price of door recall at the time, right, when COVID struck. And so everyone felt like that should just wait, get put on hold. But now we're getting all of these rezone requests, and they're just all over the place and creating chaos. And so we need to get back to updating the code.
But there's still no funding.
Yeah, so there's various talk about how we can then move forward with that. So I'm actually haven't even seen the communication yet, but I know that was put in. So
see if I can find it.
Is there any talk of a moratorium on zoning changes, or not zoning changes? I forgot. I just forgot
about that, but I've not. No one else has brought that up.
Well, there's clearly not a moratorium if the chicken zoning is changing.
Let me see here, the communication.
Well, they're moving it totally out of zoning. That's why you can still do that.
Where did the communication go? To Laws and Rules?
I was told it was sent in on Friday, but maybe he ended up not sending it in. It was Alderman Toller.
Let me see if there's anything. I'm just checking to see if there's anything there,
Yeah,
because that would, a blank page. Nope. Nope.
Yeah, I haven't seen
Not
it.
updated. We'll watch for that, because that would supersede whatever report I would have had on zoning, I think. That's new information.
So then back to Emily's comment, should the council revisit form-based code, then parking would and should be addressed as part of that then, right? Holistically? Hopefully? Maybe?
I would think so. Because basically, right, like my understanding of form-based code is almost like overlay districts, right? It's like a new way to update that.
All right, so we will keep our eyes out to see how that moves forward. Anything else on from planning board, Kevin?
I think we've covered it in full.
Okay. Public safety, Michelle, anything from public safety?
Just more stop signs. And we had a guest from Ulster County Department of Mental Health just speaking about mental health awareness, and just public safety.
Okay. Zoning, Kevin, did we cover that?
Yeah, I think what Michelle said is would supersede anything I would have had to say. So I think we can move on and just note that the communication, the new communication in the minutes.
Yeah, I don't see the communication, so it may not have gone in, but I'll find out.
I'll put it in a conditional phrasing. It may be coming. Yeah. There may be a new communication. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. When in doubt, sound conditional.
Okay. Climate smart.
Oh.
Well, Kevin, sorry, did you want to chime in?
Let me find the minutes.
I mean, I think the main event that's happening right now on the climate front is we're embarking on the climate action planning.
Yeah, 2.0.
Really exciting. And so, of course, I mean, Julie, you is making progress on other sustainability projects, with the city. I mean, we're almost done with LED lights and things like that. But I think the main focus right now that probably would be relevant to this group is the climate action planning process that's underway. And that there is a public meeting that's going to be happening on December 9th at 5:30. And we really want to promote that widely and would love if, the members of the CAC could participate and help spread the word. So that's kind of the top of mind thing. We did bring up the pollinators issue too, which I'm trying to remember now. I feel like people weren't that enthusiastic.
Well, we said that the land trust and the farm YMCA and other people are doing it. So if people wanted to participate, they should find an organization that's doing so and jump on board.
Yeah, nobody was like champing at the bit to make it a campaign. Although I have thought about it since, and it seems like it could be something really wonderful to promote, and maybe we could do so in partnership with those other organizations. Like, God willing, we're able to have an Earth Fair 2021, and kind of kicking off like okay, and if not 2021, maybe 2022. But
I literally was thinking about this today because I was on the tree commission call and they were like talking about Arbor Day, and I thought, if we're gonna have an Earth Fair, we need to be planning. And then I thought, we are not going to. I don't think we're going to.
I was at Forsyth Park yesterday at the Nature Center with my baby and in-laws and talking about our wonderful Earth Fair, and it was making me very sad that we weren't able to have it this year, and it's up in the air whether we'll be able to have it next year. But in any case, I think the pollinators thing could be a really cool kind of community education thing that I bet people would get excited about, that we could promote at Earth Fair when we eventually do have it again. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else really to report on with Climate Smart, is there?
Kevin, did you have?
Well, refrigerants were, we discussed refrigerants again, and we discussed, I think, that Sean had left. Julie ran us through a series of city sustainability projects. Let's see, what else did we have there? Oh, the stretch energy code, which came up at the CAP 2.0 meeting today. Jessica may be having another meeting with the code enforcement officer on that. And that pretty much covers everything that was important, I think.
Excuse me for interrupting you, Kevin. I couldn't hear. What kind of energy code?
Oh, the New York State Energy Stretch Code. It's a, we had a presentation at Climate Smart a while back on this. Yeah, it's a nice NYSERDA on their website. It's a, you would basically, maybe Betta could explain it better than me. I don't know.
Well, I could
Or
look into
Julie.
it. I couldn't understand the word that I got now that it's stretch. Okay.
Yeah, it's a sustainability initiative that would modify the building code to provide for green building, basically, to put it in a nutshell without getting lost in the weeds.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something we're going to be prioritizing in the future. So we'll keep everybody posted. But basically, it's just Kingston continuing to be a state leader in our sustainability efforts and making every effort to make sure our buildings are energy efficient and going above and beyond sort of, where I think most communities are, but that eventually most communities will be doing the same thing. But the stretch energy code is something you kind of opt into to have more ambitious building codes. But then it goes back to also, like, right now, given the budget deficit and everything else, how much money and capacity and resources are there to implement these measures and hold building owners accountable. So I think it's something we're definitely going to be pursuing in the future. We can keep you posted on.
Okay. Thank you.
I think the main thing is that the term stretch means above and beyond. That's what you use various different ways to explain that. Betta, can you tell us, can you put something in on about December 9th into the chat so we can remember? You said you wanted us to participate.
Yeah, it's December 9th from 5:30 to 7. We hopefully very soon will have a registration page, but it's going to be a presentation where people can learn about the climate action planning process and some of the actions that we're considering, to be incorporated into that plan. And we want to be sure to get feedback from the public. What were you going to say, Julie?
Thank you. I wanted to say that this is from the EMC, but apparently the Department of Energy is going to work with, have Europa McGovern work to help non-participating communities to work in climate smart communities. And so that doesn't include us, but it's another way to move climate smart forward. And their goal is to have 100% of Ulster County municipalities adopt the pledge and have a climate smart committee and, begin working on high impact. So they're actually going to assign Europa that. And so one of the reasons I'm bringing that up is that is the EMC next on the agenda?
Sure, go ahead.
Well, I don't want to take over because I want to continue if there's anything out on climate smart.
No, we're good with climate smart.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, what I've been observing at the Ulster County Environmental Management Council is the smaller towns. So the Environmental Management Council is really just all that. It's not just, but it's a council that is supposed to advise the legislature and the executive, but it is primarily the members are primarily representatives from the various CACs around the county. And one of the things that I've been seeing over the years is that the CACs in smaller towns are doing all the climate smart work plus what they normally did with CACs. And so it's getting to the point where a lot of what the EMC is talking about at their meetings is climate smart information. And I can see where some of these other communities might start splitting off like Kingston had. So that's just an observation. And, you know, there's so much to do that's probably a good thing, but they probably don't, but it's also just a matter of how many people they have that are interested. I did want to report that apparently Gardner didn't close down their CAC like they had, that there was a chance that was going to happen, or it did, but then they realized they couldn't do it. So the town realized they couldn't do it. So anyway, they're back functioning. They only have 3 members. So if you know anyone in Gardner that might want to be on their committee, you could try to talk to the leader whose name is on the internet. Okay, in terms of the department or the EMC, Laura Petit, the district number 8 legislator, came to talk about the solid waste management plan and the zero waste management plan. And there's 2 resolutions up. One is to approve the Ulster County Solid Waste Management Plan, and one is to establish a zero waste implementation plan. And I'm just bringing this up because the solid waste management plan didn't really put any emphasis at all into zero waste, attaining zero waste. It was much more about putting in a landfill or putting in a railroad siding or other ways of kind of disposal. And a railroad siding, by the way, is not disposal, it's transportation. So the people that are interested are trying to add more to the zero waste management plan. The situation with the solid waste management plan, it should have been passed this summer, and now it's November. And the issue is that they should have gone through SECRA immediately, and they are just now just finished, the UCRA just finished sending out letters to say that they wanted to be the lead agency. And what they did at first was they actually said they were the lead agency, and then they also said that there was no impact, which you can't do those 2 things in one resolution. You have to do a lead agency, and then you have to find out if everyone's okay with that. And then anyway, so it just is just amazing how it's taking a huge amount of time just to do that. And so there's the solid waste management plan, and there's also the idea of moving this zero waste management plan, and that is going to be just written by volunteers. And apparently they're going to have a meeting once a week to kind of write that management plan, as opposed to having a consultant do it. And then the Ulster County Water Quality Coordinating Committee had a meeting, and I attended. They mostly talked about the drinking water source protection program, which we've already taken action on. And people kind of went around the room and talked about what they were doing. And there is some issue about Central Hudson wanting to establish a new rate plan. So the EMC is watching that. Mm-hmm. And not much else, or nothing else.
Okay, thank you. Tree Commission met today. It was a pretty brief meeting. They did go over a dead tree on South Manor that needs to come down. There's some issues on Green Street, a couple trees that they're evaluating. And there was discussion about money that's been allocated for purchasing trees for street trees. So they're going through a RFP or RFB process for that to see who would be funding or who would be providing those trees, what vendor would be providing those. It seems like they're going to get about 5 or so trees that I think they have locations determined for where they're going to be putting those. And they also did start to talk about Arbor Day, which is how I started thinking about Earth Day. They want to do something. They really want to do something socially distanced. I think that whether or not they choose to do something doesn't have to impact whether or not we do something for Earth Day. I mean, the scale of events is large, and really they usually tack on to our event, but they might, you know, work with the school or hand out trees or whatever it is. That was all that happened with Tree Commission. Just cutting back to Earth Day, I will say that in the past, this is about when we started planning for the following year. It makes me, I don't know, it's weird to think that like we already have to be making decisions about events for 2021, but we're not the only ones that have to make this decision. I mean, I'm assuming that whatever's going on with St. Patrick's Day, that decision must be in the works already. I would say if I had to make the decision right now, and this isn't necessarily relevant to this board, except for Betta has participated and I'm looking for input, I would say if we had to make the decision right now, we would say we're not going to do it. But at some point, we have to start having events again. I don't know. Do people have any feeling towards what we should be doing? It's really not up to this council, it's up to the mayor, but any influence or thought?
Maybe we can come up with something now that, like, you know, last year we were so just in shock by the whole pandemic and everything. And maybe, you know, since now we have some time, maybe we won't be able to, I don't think, do what we'd like to do, but maybe we could at least plan something. You know, mask wearing, socially distant, conscious, you know, thing, to bring people together in a way that still feels like community building and worthwhile and safe. But yeah, I don't think we'll be able to do a full-on Earth Fair until 2022, the way that they're talking about the vaccine projections and all of that. I don't think by May we'll be, you know, where we want to be probably, but that's just obviously none of us know.
Michelle?
I think that the state's college system, SUNY, is their guidance that just came out was very telling. They're about spring semester and canceling spring break and already saying that they're going to be mailing diplomas to graduates. And, you know, during, it's heartbreaking, but again, at least people aren't being, you know, told like, wait another month, wait another month, wait another month, right? So like you can plan ahead, and maybe there's ways to do things instead of one large event, like a uptown event at the, you know, near the farmer's market, and then a downtown event near that farmer's market, and a midtown event, and just make smaller events if possible.
I think that we'll probably stew on it a little bit, and maybe start of the new year, just reconvene the Earth Fair Planning Committee and just have us sit down and say, what do you want to do? Something at all, nothing, whatever. I mean, I don't like the idea of like having a smaller event, just because like having a smaller Boo at the Zoo doesn't mean anything. The same amount of people that come to Boo at the Zoo will come to Boo at the Zoo. Like having a smaller Earth Fair, like we can't decide like you get to come, you don't get to come. So like it has to be way different, in my opinion, in order for it to not attract the same amount of people. So, but
I wasn't even thinking we'd do a real Earth Fair. I was just thinking we'd do something. Like maybe it's DIY sustainability like kit where people will get like a composting bucket and a little pollinator toolkit, or we like put together some kind of thing where people could register and get the kit and somehow like track their participation online, or some kind of thing. We promote the chicken keeping. I mean, something where like people could get excited that they're taking action for the sustainability in their own lives, but they still will feel connected and get some like assistance and enthusiasm from the greater community.
And I think
we could come up with some kind of clever way of doing that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, and I think tying it in with the climate action plan work wherever we are at that time will be important as well. So I think we have time. I think we can concede right now and say that we're not going to plan a normal Earth Fair, so we don't need to start today, but it's good to just start chatting about it.
But
If you were to, I don't know a lot about who can apply for the community block money, but I know that there's new funding coming out. Like if you were going to be doing these kits, like is that something you could apply for the community block development money to help fund, for the community?
Yeah, I don't know. That is income eligible. It's like based on usually
Right.
on certain
Low,
trends.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So I don't know how we
yeah,
would
but
get.
there could be someone else that did it that we could provide help for, like the Y Project or something like that. It seems to me that May is a really good time to help people get their gardens going, and it's and I know the climate action plan, that's a really big thing, but it seems like that could, kind of what Betta already said. Also, two of the examples you used were the farmers market. We are having farmers markets, so how could you do something like a farmers market, socially distanced, that was a fair, and what are other people doing? So
Yeah, definitely good ideas. Okay, lots to think about.
yeah.
Great. So are there any other reports or updates? Does anyone have any other business? Okay, if not, next week.
I would like to ask if we're gonna think about becoming a board if this open space plan passes and we can move ahead to an open space index. And if we want to even think about that and, kind of have it on the agenda.
Do you want me to email all of you tonight after the meeting?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll put it on next month's agenda. We can discuss it. It's the next logical step. The next meeting is set for December 8th. Will we have quorum?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, like we all have a really exciting travel agenda and other meetings, so.
We can skip the month if you guys want to skip.
No. Oh,
To skip.
What was that, Beth?
How about we
Sounds good.
skip the month and instead everybody comes to the climate action planning meeting?
sounds good to me. Unless there's something we need to do for the planning board or the zoning board.
I don't know that there's going to be any action. There's not currently any action before us from the zoning board.
Right. No, I know for the planning board though, we usually are actively pursue it, right?
Right. Kevin, is there something you think we would need to do?
I don't know how fast the council is moving on the communication on zoning.
I don't think
We have to see that
it's
first.
frequently right now. So I can also just find out where that's at in email as well. So.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
am I hearing a motion to forego having the December meeting? In which case our next meeting would be January 12th. Am I hearing a
I
motion
think
or not?
that as long as there isn't some kind of action we need to take on the Wirt Street property or something else, so. I don't know.
Yeah, we won't know. We won't know till the planning board meets and see what they do.
Yeah, that's next
Right.
Monday.
Next Monday. Which
So can
would-
we have a tentative cancel it and depending on what Kevin thinks we should do?
Kevin, what do you think about that?
Gee, I don't want to be responsible for the planning board. No, please. I don't know. It's up in the air. I mean, the Wirt Street, that's going to come before the Landmarks Commission and the Heritage Area Commission, with both of which I'm on. But we haven't received any communication yet on it.
And there hasn't been any communication to this committee.
That's meeting
Right, because
before
we have to
our
vote on
next
that
meeting.
tonight. Yeah, we're
I
voting
will
on
get-
that tonight, and then it goes out.
Yeah, I will get the agenda for those two meetings before this board would have met in December. I think we're meeting the first Thursday of December, whatever day that is of the month. And Suzanne or Julie Safford send out the communications about a week before.
But I can't make a decision about a meeting. It'll be 3 days in advance, 4 days in advance.
Yeah. I don't know what to say.
We can either decide now or we can decide in like 2 weeks. Just Thanksgiving.
I don't want to make it complicated. We could just have a meeting that was 15 minutes long if there's an issue and take everything off the agenda.
Raise a glass of eggnog or something.
All right, so if I'm not hearing a motion to cancel the meeting, then the meeting will be on. Short or otherwise, on December 9th. 8th, December 8th. Okay, so if I'm not hearing otherwise, then I do need a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second?
Move to
Oh,
adjourn.
nope. Right.
Adam moved and Lorraine seconded. All in favor?
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, it is 7:17. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.
You too.
Night.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.